This week's videos are sponsored by Prize Picks, the easy-to-use fantasy sports betting app. More on them in just a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, we got so much to go into today. Appreciate all the questions you guys added in our community post and Patreon. We want to talk about The Sinners, the weird narrative that's been forming around its box office reception. Andor, some controversies around there, some Star Wars casting, Thunderbolts early reactions. We got a good amount, and it's all driven by questions that you guys have submitted. Thank you so much. There's video chapters if you'd like to hop around, especially when we go to Last of Us 2. There's going to be spoilers because of the big thing that happened in episode 2. But before we do any of that, two things. Please leave a like on this video. That would mean the world. Your feedback throughout this entire video, comments, does help out. I'm not saying that only for, you know, the engagement to help the video out. It does help out. The feedback we do take into consideration because we like to have a conversation and grow. The other second thing, we got to congratulate Coy Jandreau. Coy officially has his own new show. If you go to DC right now, why am I saying it? Coy, tell them what the show is.
DC High Volume. I'm doing a show on DC Official, and seeing my picture on DC's official YouTube and DC.com is so insane. It's an honor of honors. I'm already in the back of DC Comics, and now this is like another level of wonderful. I love Batman, and if you, like me as a comic fan, have ever been like, why don't they just translate the comic directly? Like, we love these comics. What if they just made that? Well, they're doing that in DC High Volume, starting with Batman Year One, going into Batman Along Halloween, and further. We've got more after that. But in DC High Volume, I am interviewing the talent that is the voice actors, the sound designers, the composers below the line, talking to writers like Jeff Loeb, who wrote The Long Halloween, talking to writers and artists that are hugely inspired by these stories, like hopefully Jim Lee, people that we're responsible for shaping these characters in long-form interview, which is what I love to do, and it is literally a soundstage that is historic and iconic. It is long-form, like hour-long sit-down show, Lipton style, which is my dream, about Batman, and it is on DC. It's on their audio feeds everywhere you stream your pods. It's on YouTube, and this first episode is up right now, just dropped on Thursday, sitting down with Batman himself and the person responsible, the executive producer of DC High Volume, Mike Pilata. Really, really proud of it. It's been like a lifelong fight to get something like this.
I'm excited to watch it. It premiered today, so I haven't checked it out yet, but I do know, if you've seen Coy's interview skills, I've told it to you so many times that I think you're like the master at interviewing, and please support it. Please go watch it, leave a comment on it. There's a link in the description box and pinned comment, and if you go support it, my hunch is, I have no involvement in this show at all. My hunch is that if that grows and does well, then Coy could end up talking to guests, the big ones that you're more familiar with, the talent that you're more familiar with, directors and actors. The idea is to help grow it to that point. Like, I think that would be amazing. And if there's anyone who would be able to provide the most impactful, substantial type of conversation with these artists and actors and whatever, it would be Coy Jandreau.
Thank you, man.
There's a reason why they graduated to let him have this show. And I think it would be great if Reject Nation could go support, show your love in the comments, especially leave a comment. And I feel like it would be awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you, man.
It'd be really cool. It'd be really cool. Now, back to the Real Rejects, your shitty other job.
Dude, the dream is to only be DC and Real Rejects Coy Jandreau. Believe me, I'm trying to downsize my life. I love it here, man. I actually gave them our schedule, and the hard time and place we film this is completely blacked out from anything DC every single week.
Oh,
this
amazing.
Is like, even DC, second to Reject schedule.
Yeah.
Just letting you know.
All right, well, let's kick this off. For Coney1127, this was the top comment on the community post. So to honor our followers, let's go with the top comment here. And by top comment, that means is the one that got the most thumbs up, meaning this is what most people want to hear about. Discussion on Sinners, your personal thoughts on the movie, and also the discourse on how the movie has been covered by entertainment news outlets, supposedly downplaying its box office success, as well as the deal Ryan Coogler made to retain Final Cut ownership in 25 years. Side note, John, I know you normally are like scouring to get these. I got them all already, so I will screenshot and send them to our wonderful editor's prepper.
Just as I had taken a screenshot.
Don't worry, I've already got them all.
But now you can breathe.
Yeah, so don't you fret. I got it all here. Well, Coy and I love the shit out of Sinners. Yeah, we saw a prime experience, in
70 millimeter IMAX, one of the
Beautiful.
real ones.
One of the real ones, and that means the aspect ratio changes. And
We had Greg's favorite seats.
yeah, no, we got there early so we can get the my favorite seats, and that is one of those experiences that you just kind of don't forget. And John, thank you for taking the sacrifice on being one of the people to opt out to react to it. I'll do Thunderbolts on channel, you listeners. So
This is probably the one that burns the most.
this is one of the weird things that I've been having lately is, oh, when I skip a movie to a movie that's not getting good feedback, not a problem. But when it's like beloved, I'm like, oh, this is kind of hard. Yeah.
That was like me with Minecraft. I like literally thought I was helpful because I'm like, this movie's doing huge. I will fall on the sword because like this would be a thing I could talk about everywhere. And you're like, do you even care? And I was like, Craig, I'm trying to do the thing. I'm trying to do the Sinners Thunderbolts thing. Like, let me help. It is hard. And it's like a factor of the job.
But with Sinners, man, I am so happy. We did already a review for it that you guys can go check out. I am so happy of how beloved this is. In fact, it's more beloved than I anticipated. I was a little not apprehensive. I was a little concerned that it might have been a little too artsy because that first half of it, without spoiling jack shit for John, especially or anyone who hasn't seen it, that first half of it is so much more about other things that are not a vampire movie, but still thematically will tie in to everything. And it's so much more about music, and it's so multi-genre. And while a wildly impressive film, I thought maybe people might like get a little bored or check out or something like that. Then to see it got this like A cinema score.
Yeah.
Its box office is doing really well.
98 or something Rotten Tomatoes, something crazy.
It was an example to me, too, of how reviews and audience score is effective. I have the AMC A list that I rarely use, but I gladly give them money. And when the tickets were first released, empty seats. After A Cinema Score and all that, I went to go check because I was like, I got to take my wife to go see this movie. Fucking sold out. Packed to the
Love
brim.
to hear it.
I was even looking for like the screens, like, well, who's want to go to like 10 a.m.? Oh my God.
Everyone, I guess.
Yeah. So it's exciting because it is an original film. This is the mind of Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan working in tandem again. All their experiences, and it's not Creed, which is a Rocky movie franchise. It's not Black Panther, which is a Marvel franchise. It is their own original film with so much heart and soul. And to see that it is pulling in audiences for this is beautiful and what cinemas need. To the bigger point of what's happening is that downplay that's going on. John, can you find that downplay, the one that like got really popular, especially after Ben Stiller quote tweeted it saying like, why is this getting the reception about that? You know what we're talking about, right, Coy?
Yep. I got real mad.
You got mad too when you saw it.
I got specifically, yes, I'll talk about it. Yes.
Variety saying Sinners has amassed 61 million in its global debut. It's a great result for an original R-rated horror film, yet the Warner Brothers release has a $90 million price tag before global marketing expenses, making... Oh my goodness! No, I've lost it. Oh, I'm so sorry. It was going so smooth.
Refresh
Basically,
page.
making profitability like a doubtful, casting doubt on the profitability.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for getting that. And Coy, what was your reaction when you saw that? Because I didn't get much of a reaction. I had to actually gather more context to understand why people were upset, and eventually it did dawn on me, but I admittedly, I was a little naive to what the offense was.
My immediate reaction was, we finally have something original. We finally have it doing well. We finally have an event movie that doesn't need to be tied to an IP. We finally have an entire event feel like an event that is born of creativity, and then because negativity is celebrated more than positivity, they had to go, oh, and that's insane. Like, it ended with a negative for no reason. It literally, it made 2/3 of its budget already weekend one. It's an original thing that is only getting good word of mouth, that is only getting good Rotten Tomatoes, that is only getting a good cinema score. They had nothing actually negative to say. So then they were like, but you know, with marketing, I guess it's not doing Avengers numbers. Like, what an insane thing to pull when something's finally what you claim to root for. If you're a trade that celebrates movies and you're a trade that celebrates the entertainment industry, when something unique in entertainment happens, you have to still go, yes, but negativity is what's going to give us clicks. Let's make sure we as Variety go, let's make sure that doesn't seem too positive because it's not going to click as much. I hate that they sacrifice their own integrity as a movie publication to spin it negatively when it's inherently positive. Like, that is such a good win for the cinema, especially in 2025, especially for an original IP. So to make it negative just for clicks is embarrassing.
That was my initial response too when being asked about it. I was like, oh, it must be because of the negative bait that you have to do, right? And like our titles often in here are a play on that, you know, to showcase like kind of what we're talking about, like the farce of it. So we intentionally will do these titles that ours like, oh, is this going to be negative? Like saying like Marvel's future is going to be dark, even though
dark
what we're really
movies.
saying is like the dark is good, you know? But we know that people will respond a certain way. And yeah, sometimes it does like help to have that. This though, the context of it, I would agree, is putting kind of a negative light on it. And this morning I listened to Dan Murrell's talk about it, because I didn't know what this 25 years thing was.
Dude, it's incredible. His deal, do you know his full deal now?
I mean, elaborate. I know the basic, but elaborate.
So he got 3 things that are unheard of in the deal. The first is
percentage deal
upfront. So not a back end deal, an upfront deal. So he gets a cut of the upfront money, which is unheard of.
So
that doesn't
meaning the movie doesn't need to make a profit. He'll get a cut right away.
Right. He gets a percentage, not of the, here's the leftovers. He gets the money. And then the second being the big one that's unprecedented is in 25 years, he gets the rights back to his own film. So in 2050, he will own Sinners, which does not ever happen.
Which I feel like is really great considering what the movie is actually talking about.
And it's so interesting because it's a certain amount of time and stuff like that's really interesting considering the film.
And to, please don't forget that third point, and to also enhance a little bit what you're talking, zoom in, to elaborate a little bit more on that of like the specialty of it. Like James Cameron did not have the rights to Terminator for so long. That's why they were able to make a bunch of shitty Terminator films without him.
Dogma, Kevin Smith couldn't even like play it without Harvey Weinstein getting money.
See, yeah, so that is the importance.
He doesn't own it to the level that Kevin Smith sat on that movie for 10 years and wouldn't play it, wouldn't distribute it, wouldn't put it on Blu-ray. Dogma didn't exist until they finally got the rights back recently, and now it's, it's owned by not Harvey Weinstein.
Especially for this being an original film, the idea that he doesn't get to own the narrative and they could like do sequel bullshit with it or whatever the hell they want. Like they could do it. They could literally, Warner Bros. Could do a sequel without Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan if they wanted to. Right? Probably. They could find some way. What was the third thing you wanted to say?
He got final cut on the film.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Final cut on a
Certainly
studio
feels
film.
that way.
Yeah, he got final cut, which doesn't happen now. So that's
amazing.
That's not a director's cut. That is the cut that you've seen is Ryan Coogler's movie.
So what Dan Murrell was posing of what he believes is the high probability of why they did the negative slant, because a lot of these bigger outlets,
other studios are going to be owned by are you about to say, sorry?
No, what were you going to say? Because I think you're on to it.
They're in the pocket of these other studios that are going to see this unprecedented deal, and other directors are going to start asking for a deal like Coogler's. And I saw headlines like, Coogler's going to ruin the studio system. And it literally felt like I was watching The Studio, where there's like, this thing is going to cause blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe artists should own their art or get a stake in their art. Look at what the movie industry has become because of the exhibition industry having to keep up with insane costs and actors and writers and directors feeling like, how do we have a strike and ask for the bare minimum if people see us as already rich and they're not? And then look at the music industry. Spotify has ruined music because no one's making money if I pay $7 a month and stream infinite music. These bands have to tour and they have to charge $150 a ticket to make even. And most people don't realize stand-up comedians, bands, all these things, they have to rent out these venues. So if you're Bill Burr and you're playing Red Rocks, you're going to be putting up $200,000 for that space, and then you're going to have to pay your crew. So you've got to clear like $350K before you start seeing money. So if you're not the biggest thing ever, you're never going to get to the point where you can do that. Same with bands. So bands don't make money on Spotify. They don't really make money touring until they sell enough merch and fully sell out venues. The whole system is stacked against artists. Meanwhile, the people at the top that own all of this are making the actual money that the average person thinks the actors and musicians and all these things are making. It's only the top 5% that make the money that people think the top 50% make. And the whole thing is falling apart because of the greed of a certain amount of people and the aspiration of art from the rest. So to shit on something that's original by great artists, nah.
It's crazy how even these entertainment outlets, because either side let's play a little devil's advocate here for a second. What they're posing in that article, at least in that headline, I didn't actually read the whole article.
Actually, for context, there is a headline from the New York Times as well, and that's what people have kind of jumped on because it's a quote from Variety where they say basically profitability remains a ways away. What the New York Times ran with is a headline that says Sinners is a box office success with a big asterisk in parentheses, which is what a lot of people have been running with. So that's New York Times, and it says Ryan Coogler's original film is expected to sell a strong 46 million in tickets over the weekend, enough for number one, but its profitability remains a long way off. So those are getting conflated, basically.
You see, the thing, thank you. That does help, actually. The thing is that there is some truth to that, though, right? Like, to actually make a profit off of how much this movie cost and knowing how much goes into it, there is a truth to that, but that speaks a lot more to the larger issue at hand, which is something we have talked a lot about, that not everything's fucking box office opening. What happened?
Yeah.
There's one director that not a big like film director or something, but he's an active working director who's done a lot for a lot of huge TV shows and stuff. And we were having a discussion about that again. Is like the dangers of like the opening box office and how that seems to affect everything. And what happened to films having a legacy or films being able to grow over time. And that's why I wanted to start by talking specifically about how there were no sales that were that big for Sinners. That's why I was tracking a little low. But once this good word of mouth came out,
It's gonna have legs.
suddenly, bam, this came in. So if you're a part of this entertainment industry, you should be celebrating it. That way you help encourage the legs. That way you help encourage it to have a longer run, to show that's not all about box office opening weekends anymore and then talking about your next week of having a 70% dip the next week, because then it's just a bunch of numbers and boring algorithm analytic game, when this is the story here of like how this thing managed to keep having these legs. Or I like, it makes me think of stuff like how Pirates of the Caribbean came out. It was number one for like 6 weeks in a row. Or Elf did not debut at number one, and then suddenly, like 2 weeks or a week later, it was number one at the box office.
The Accountant got a sequel today.
I know, right?
What?
Yeah.
Like, The Accountant's a great example. I can't believe I got to see Accountant 2 because I thought The Accountant was like this weird little movie that no one liked that I had in my little chest, and then it got a sequel because of the legs.
Yes.
That was a movie that Ben Affleck said the number one thing he got was when people would approach and they'd say how that meant something to them personally. It wasn't like, the biggest movie, but it affected so many people personally. And Gavin O'Connor made one of our favorite movies ever, Warrior. And I got the chance to talk to Gavin recently, and Gavin was saying he's like such a good luck, bad luck charm because people find his movies later, but he's not like box office gold, but there's such an impact because he sells such human stories. I think we need to look at that as well. Now, I get it's show business, but show comes first. We need to start letting that be part of the conversation again.
Yeah, we need to drive good energy to these things. And these big outlets, I would believe that call it a conspiracy theory or a likelihood, whatever you want to call it, about throwing a slant there because of the Ryan Coogler deal. I could absolutely believe that. I also believe the other thing that we mentioned, that it could probably just a thing that they're doing to get some clicks.
I think cynicism's profitable, but
Absolutely.
I also think that if you're owned by one of the 5 companies that own everything in media, you are advantaged to screw over this deal.
It's kind of crazy that entertainment journalism used to not have to be called entertainment journalism. It was just journalism. And to see what is going on with like these huge outlets, I have a hard time trusting them personally.
Well, that's what I'm struggling with what I do is like so many, like, a decent chunk of our comments are like, yeah, but Coy's working at DC, so he doesn't have, the transparency, or he can't be subjective. He can't have an objective view on this. And I'm here on Real Rejects, which is the channel that is you, and we have the freedom where I can say whatever I want. And so it drives me insane where, like, I don't want to work at a major publication that kneecaps me of doing anything else. And I've made sure that I am able to say what I want about what I want places like this. So it's really hard when the major ones are doing the thing people are blaming me for doing, but since they're major, people trust them because they're brand name. Like when you find out, like, Pepsi gives you cancer, then all of a sudden it's like, well, it's too late now. But if like a little company, it's really tricky because of the size of the thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that we acknowledge that a big network saying it is arguably more harmful, and that you should try to find independent sources where you can that you do trust. If you don't trust me, that's fine. But I have nothing that I can't say. And that's why I want to be excited about stuff, because I can talk about it.
Despite the odds, R-rated, $90 million budget. Original. It managed to pull off a great opening weekend, and it will only garner more success. I watch a lot of YouTube channels with people who often will fall a little bit negative or cynical that I love. I'm not talking about like people with nuanced opinions. And I'll shout out one right now. Cosmonaut Variety Hour gave this glowing 10 out of, he never gives 10 out of 10. It's glowing 10 out of 10. I was like, oh, this makes me so happy to see that. And Sinners is the kind of movie that too will continue to grow in popularity over time.
I think it's the biggest original since 2019. I think it's the highest cinema score for a horror movie. It's all of these things that I think should be headlines.
Yes. Headline that, celebrate success, and congratulations to everyone involved in Sinners, because you guys are killing it right now. And the theaters need it. It's a big win for Bold Swing.
Also, they just shot this movie. Like this all happened, like the Q&A we saw, everything we saw about how this movie got made, I'm like, this is in real time.
I mean, it wrote it too fast and started shooting pretty fast too. So it's really, really impressive. Whether or not you find the movie overhyped or didn't personally love it yourself, you cannot disregard that this is a phenomenal success in a lot of ways. All right, so that's that. Leave your guys' thoughts down below, please. Spring's here, baseball's in full swing, and if you're looking to make watching games even more exciting, check out Prize Picks, our go-to in the daily fantasy sports category. The reason this household is so into Prize Picks is because it's super easy to use. You just pick more or less on player stat projections, like strikeouts, home runs, or hits, baseball terms, for your chance to win up to 1,000 times your entry. And unlike a lot of other apps, you can mix players from baseball and other sports like basketball, hockey, and even esports. My wife is the one who's especially into fantasy sports, so we've been playing Prize Picks for a while now, and we love how quick it is to set up a lineup. This week we grabbed Shohei Ohtani for more than 1 home run and Julio Rodriguez for more than 1 stolen base. Let's see if my gut, and by my gut I mean my wife's gut, is right. Another thing too, they invented the flex play, which lets you still cash out even if one of your picks doesn't hit, and the payout's fast, safe, and secure. We've gotten ours in under 15 minutes. So what you can do is download the app today and use code REJECTS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code REJECTS, $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game, people. Thunderbolts. Got some Thunderbolts things to talk about here. Alice Leedy says, love to hear your thoughts on early Thunderbolts reviews. And to just add a little bit more to it, J Jones 5817 is saying, what realistically does Thunderbolts need to accomplish as far as box office, general sentiment, MCU plot progression, etc. And just to throw one to keep in the back of our minds, Paulo Burbeck 2126 says, should they remove post-credit scenes from critic and fan screenings to avoid having them spoiled leak in advance? I'm going to say yes to that right away. I would absolutely say yes to that, because it's already hard enough with press screenings, because people talk, people chit chat. You got scoopers who are there like, hey, what do you got? You know, so
also people say who's on the red carpet at the premiere and say why. I'll never forgive.
Yeah, so I think they should do that, because this would allow for people to make the hype about the movie itself and not the post-credit scene.
Also, I see it again with a regular audience anyway, so it'd be cool to see it with a crowd for the first time.
But these Thunderbolts early reviews, I'm going to shout out a couple of them. Friend of the channel, Mama's Geeky, Tessa, says that heavy themes of mental health, it hit hard. Sean Chandler says it's overtly about depression, loneliness, and purpose. The whole point is they're reject characters. And there's a lot of this. A lot of the early comments are basically talking about, like, it's a surprisingly more emotional, surprisingly deals a lot about mental health being at the forefront. And people also say that it's a really funny movie. and the action scenes are incredible, too. The ensemble, particularly Florence Pugh, is incredible. Lewis Pullman, also another actor who is getting highlighted massively by a ton of people. End credits apparently are incredible. The post-credit scene is an impactful one. And this is all coming from the fan screening. And they're also saying it is one of the better MCU movies in a very long time. There are some people who are like, it's not as great as some people are making out to me, but that's expected. And there might be a caveat that, yeah, because it is the, fan screening, that of course people will like it. Who knows? But it's been a while since there's been like, oh, almost everybody who has saw this already is raving pretty crazy about it. And the trailers have been awesome, too.
Yeah.
And a variety of different tones and nuances, and the marketing ramp up to this has been genius. So this is one of those cases where I see a lot of this specificity. 3C Films is another one being very much highlighted as well. There's other people, Empire Magazine's loving the hell out of this. I believe that they're being honest is what I'm getting at. There's more than who I shouted out here. I'm just giving a general consensus of what it's been about. And like the mental health side has been surprising to me. We are friends with Tessa, and it was the first text I ever got too, where I actually felt encouraged to do a reaction at home, weirdly, because there's going to be people who are going to watch it on at the theaters, do a review here, so we're going to do the best of both worlds here. But Tessa did message me of actually, can you mind if I just read it specifically? Sure. Because it actually meant a lot to me specifically about like what we are all about here lately and getting in tune with our why. It was something I felt like I needed to hear.
We have the Marvel version of the Real Rejects podcast.
No one's ever messaged this to me ever. Said, I feel like you should skip Thunderbolts and do the reaction solely because after conversations we have had, I think you will heavily relate and be able to share some great commentary for your audience. Aww. That's all I will say about it. And
it's a beautiful sentiment, Tessa.
It actually touched me because I agreed to be the one to opt. I can't go to the screening already. I'm not going to be available. And B, it was like, you know what? I feel like if there was one to skip out, I should be the one to take the lead on this one. And I didn't know anything about this other stuff. So I'm excited to share that experience. But Coy, that's me rambling and trying to get all this information out there. What are your initial response to? Because I also don't want to get too detailed because Coy and I both don't like hearing too many details.
Very vague.
Yeah,
please.
What are you feeling about Thunderbolts right now?
I stopped watching footage as I do always with TV spots. I don't watch TV spots. We actually did a fun little reaction to a thing I hadn't seen because I was already done with Thunderbolts in prep for the little social thing we just did. This was already more anticipated for me than even Fantastic Four.
Right?
And so this has already been like, my Marvel movie of the year has been Thunderbolts. I am so excited to hear that it doesn't sound like it's just going to be for me. Sometimes you see a trailer and you're like, oh, I'm excited, but I'm afraid that's going to tell the box office the wrong message. Like The Studio. When I watch The Studio, I'm like, who's this for but me? And then I'm worried it'll only do a certain amount of numbers and they won't make it ever again. Like, I was afraid Thunderbolts was like, it's a little more dour. It looks like it's a more black humor. It looks like it's more like somber and it's artsy and all the things. And I'm like, what if this only makes $200 million? And then they don't make any more of it. So the whole time I've been like, I'm really excited with a little dash, the little Thunderbolts asterisk of like, hope it's good for other people. And now to hear this gives me so much hope that we can take more chances. I've said from the jump, the thing that makes Marvel Comics great is that you can read one line and then also read another and then enjoy a team up. And the thing that makes DC Comics great is you've got characters like Batman that work as a Batman comic, but also do World's Finest as Superman and also does Justice League. And those feel like different characters, but clearly are one character, like the multifaceted nature of it. I feel like that's how Marvel Cinematic Universe started. I felt like when Marvel started, it was, man, how crazy is it that the Cap movie feels so different than the Thor movie, feels so different than the Iron Man movie, and then somehow Guardians feels possible in that universe, and then they make something like Infinity War, and you're like, how did they find a tone that fit all of this? That was the magic of the Avengers movies. It wasn't just like, yay, shiny toys. It was like all these disparate tones. The first time I saw the first Avengers film, and Iron Man's like, does mother know you weareth her drapes? I was like, we're acknowledging the different tones in a way that suits Tony and Thor while Cap is in the middle. I was like blown away. I was like, you guys turned comics into a movie. I feel like that is what I have been wanting back, where it doesn't feel like one tone. What I didn't like about Cap 4, which I liked more than some people, but not as much as others, is it didn't feel like it had a thing to say. It didn't feel like it had a tone. It didn't feel like it was specific. It felt like it got neutered by the world. And so the things I liked were like the things that were surface level. This to me feels like it's got something to say. It feels like it's got a director's vision. It feels like it's got a writer's vision. It feels like the actors in this all know their characters and are saying something through them in the lens of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's what this should do. You should use your power. With great box office power should come great responsibility to tell good stories. Like, they have a responsibility to keep the story's interesting and compelling enough to warrant that beautiful red and white banner. And this feels like that again. And that's what I haven't felt in a lead up for a little bit. Now, it's hit or miss. Like, I was excited going into some of the movies that haven't landed as well for me, and vice versa. But I feel like phase 1, 2, 3 had their ups and downs, but I feel like the feeling of excitement hasn't felt like this in a bit.
Especially for one that I can't imagine was some of people's most anticipated, because it's
not Spider-Man.
It wasn't tracking very well box office wise. I imagine this will give a bit of an uptick. It could be the first one in a long time that has like surprising legs. Maybe they'll do another article again, like, oh, it didn't perform that well, but then it ends up staying, kicking around longer. What I am so happy for people to be experiencing and for the characters here is a lot of these characters are coming off of things that were not really beloved.
Yeah.
You know, like Yelena was like a liked character, but that Black Widow movie was not beloved generally, right? It wasn't like terrible. I put it way over Captain America 4.
Red Guardian too?
Red Guardian in there. And then Falcon and Winter Soldier, more love has been coming around for it, but it was sandwiched between WandaVision and Loki.
Yeah.
So at the time when there were 3 shows back to back, Falcon and Winter Soldier was often the forgotten one that seemed to have a less than glowing reception, especially after the finale episode of how that went down for people. But John Walker gets to be in it and really gets to shine. Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp. Exactly. Taskmaster too, who was probably going to die. But, you know, we have Ant-Man in the... I haven't read a leak. It's just everyone's theory, and it lines up.
So the only chair. It's the only chair. We already thought it.
Completely lines up. And another thing too is some of these characters were like television characters, you know, like a John Walker to be coming in here. I'm thrilled.
It's also got intrigue. I feel like we haven't had a lot of intrigue in a little bit with Marvel movies. Like,
definitely.
Think about Quantumania. It was like, hey, there's a movie. It's the trailer. And then like Cap 4 came out and was like, hey, want to see the third act? We got a Hulk and Cherry Blossoms. This is like the title has an asterisk. Like they call out the fact that they're all just super soldiers in one of the trailers. It feels like this is the first one in a bit where the audience is in on the joke, and it's not a joke of a movie.
I also hear it's pretty violent too.
Yeah, it looks.
I think it was the first PG-13 Marvel movie to get a strong violence in the actual rating itself.
I mean, they literally like Pompeii people.
Yeah, it looks awesome. So I think there's a lot that it will probably have going for it, and I'm glad people are excited, especially for it not being like a typical MCU movie, to do something different, to take characters from properties that were not exactly beloved properties. You know, liked. I'd say generally really liked, but certainly not raved about. So this is really good for Marvel.
I want to give it one more thing of flowers. I also think it's doing something that is similar to what James Gunn did with Guardians, where it's ragtag team of characters you don't care about yet. We do know them, but we don't care about them yet. But also using music as a character. This trailer series, I've cared about the music for the first time in a long time since a James Gunn joint, where like the Toadies people are listening to Toadies. Like John and I do, but like I don't know any like day-to-day person that's like, oh yeah, I love that album. It's playing with like 90s alt rock, which feels like the characters, and I think that to me is a testament to how much the movie knows what it is.
Yeah, and to also go back to Jay Jones's question about box office, general sentiment, MCU plot regression. I mean, box office, I feel like it'll be fine ultimately in the end. General sentiment looks like it's going to be fine. That's the other part here, plot progression. One of the highlights about it is the actual film itself. Most people are coming out going like, this film's great. This is a blast. Some are saying like the second half is a little more typical Marvel, but that first half is very different than anything Marvel's done, and somehow feels like it's also very human. But MCU plot progression, that's where that post-credit scene, whatever the hell it is, legit have not heard a single thing of what's actually in it. It is going to factor into the bigger picture of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is the opposite of how Deadpool and Wolverine felt. Deadpool and Wolverine, while a box office juggernaut, no pun intended, well, box office hit, it didn't feel like the overall thing to give us an insight into the future of the MCU.
Yeah.
It felt like really its own thing that they did, and we're back to formula. We're back to normal thing. Back to formula. So it's back to formula. This, on the other hand, is actually going to be something that can get people excited about more MCU to come. Deadpool and Wolverine didn't do that. This actually could do that.
I also think it is a big impact on near things. Like, I think it's going to impact the greater MCU, but I also think there's a reason it's so close to Fantastic Four. I don't know anything, but I think that, like, they bought Avengers Tower.
Yeah.
This feels like it's going to be the Dark Avengers. It feels like that's going to impact.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, so all of that's exciting because, like, we're about to have an event moment that there's a before and after of. And I feel like we haven't had that in a little bit. Like, Quantumania, again, was very self-contained. We wanted Kang to be a thing, but it didn't work out. Deadpool and Wolverine felt like it was ending the Fox universe more than it was influencing going forward. I love Deadpool and Wolverine, but as you just said, that's its thing. I'm bringing my fiance. This is the first screening I'm bringing my fiance to of a Marvel movie that I feel like she needs to have seen other things. But at the same time, I'm like, that's kind of exciting. Like, I get to have that event experience with her for the first time, and we're seeing it at a venue I love. Do you know Vidiot's? Vidiot's do you know Vidiot's, John?
I have not been to the new space, but I was at the old space.
It's awesome, the new space. It is a giant 300-person renovated 1920s movie theater as its main hub, the Eagle Theater. Its entire other half is a 1990s renovated video store. You can rent movies from Vidiot's, and then you can watch movies in the theater, and they play first-run movies, and then during the day, they play old movies like Planet of the Apes and stuff. So it's this incredible space, and they're doing a huge Marvel screening at it, which feels so toadies. It feels like they're doing a 90s alt-rock screening of this thing. So, like, I'm excited to go to the premiere. I always love premieres because that audience is celebrating, not writing with their little quills. But I'm also excited to see this in, like, a weird 90s home video store. I'd never imagined Marvel would let anything like Vidiot's play this movie, but it feels like the movie. So bringing my fiance to something that feels Marvel, but feels like they're immersing themselves in tone, I'm so excited about the event feel.
Absolutely. I'm very excited for the success of Thunderbolts, man. I think it'll be a very big success, and hopefully this sentiment carries on as reviews trickle in. That's all we can say now, and hopefully it's a positive cinema score.
I will have seen it by the time we do next episode.
Ooh, yeah, baby. I mean, yeah, it comes out next week. My God. That's that for Thunderbolts. What are you guys most looking forward to in it? Leave your thoughts down below. Say, all right, Coy, we got 2 dark stories to go through here. Last of Us 2 or Star Wars? Which one do you want to do?
Let's save Star Wars.
Oh, okay, cool. Let's go Last of Us. Last of Us Season 2, spoilers here, so you can skip this if you'd like. This is a video.
Then we should do the other one then.
Star Wars will do. Star
You're
Wars. So there's a couple of stories here. Let me see here. Let me get my glasses back on here. I'm on a monocle.
You did just say, see, I heard the 1920s come out of you.
I've been watching the classic Universal monster movies.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm on with Olivia. That's our thing that we're doing together. I'm on the 5th one right now. I just finished Bride of Frankenstein.
Dude, I can't wait for the trailer for you guys to watch the Bride trailer. I keep bragging about this trailer, and Olivia's gonna love it.
I hope so, man. That was great. Those movies are so good.
Maggie Gyllenhaal made a punk rock insane starring Christian Bale as Frankenstein, like The Bride.
Christian Bale?
Christian Bale's Frankenstein.
I thought it was Skarsgård.
No.
Really?
I know for a fact the trailers are insane.
You know who was supposed to play Frankenstein originally? Bella Lugosi.
Really?
But the makeup wasn't working.
Huh. Fun fact.
Have you seen Invisible Man, the original, John?
Yes.
My God, so good. The guy's a fucking psychopath.
Yeah. Absolutely. He's just going madder and madder.
Yeah. I was like, let's get this in like 5 hours.
And some of the most basic but impressive old Hollywood movie magic effects.
I still like some of the Invisible Man stuff. I'm like, how did they do that then? Because I can't figure out how we do it now.
Yeah. I've been loving it. Like, I look forward. It doesn't even feel like homework. Like,
yeah.
It's a perfect, because Olivia's favorite era is classic, and one of my favorite genres is horror. And to be able to actually combine that, where we're like, because usually sometimes watching a classic film requires get your brain on and get your focus on, put yourself in. This is like, I could easily get lost in it. Anyway, Star Wars here. So a couple of things, and I think in some way we will tie this both in, is that Hassan Ali 2010 says Jodie Comer and Mikey Madison and other actors declining the new Star Wars starring Ryan Gosling. What the hell's that one called again? Starfighter. And Captain Fernandez says, maybe discuss whether the Star Wars fandom knows what it wants, given the seeming lack of interest in projects as different as Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, and even critical fave, Andor. And one thing that I did want to touch on and not be super specific about the actual scene itself, but the fact that Star Wars was willing to do it. And we have to be really cautious of how we say this word or how we, certain words, because YouTube hears it and they'll go, demonetized, you said a word. There's a SA scene that occurs in Andor with a certain character, and then they flat out call out the actual R word in Andor, which was surprising as hell when John and I watched it a couple weeks ago. And it was a whole thing because normally when we watch something and it's done, we move on. We're like, all right, prep the footage, let's get going. And John and I just kept talking about, like, I can't believe Star Wars did this. This is crazy. My wife was asleep and she was sleeping and she doesn't watch Andor. I was like, well, I'm like, you're not gonna believe what Star Wars just did. Like, I can't believe they had this scene and they said the word.
I would love to know her first thoughts on waking up. Like, you're waking me up to talk about Star Wars.
But even she was like, what? They did that? It's surprising. And we're not making light of the subject.
The impact.
It was the impact of the fact that they were willing to do this on a season 2 of a Disney Plus show.
Yeah.
With very little, I mean, on the screeners, they didn't give a warning. So I don't know what the warning was when people actually watched it, but that is a highly sensitive, it is way more than anything Daredevil Born Again did. Daredevil Born Again, sure, it's violent and gory, whatever. We're America. We handle that shit on our television. But this stuff, they don't even touch sex. They don't even show that. Andor season 1 implied that people were sleeping together. That was about as far as they went. They do not do sex. So the fact that they did this, and when John and I were watching it, it was such an experience of, okay, yeah, they're teasing it, but they're not going to do it. It's Disney. We're like saying it in the reaction, like they wouldn't go that far. Then you get to the next episode, like, oh my God, they're really like going there with this. And we had mixed opinions about the context of how it was done and which character and like, but and of course it was super predictable that there would be certain outlets that are like, this is why Star Wars is dead. This is why, because people were not happy. And I think that is part of a larger discussion to be had, though, of the Star Wars image that it is. Like, some people we knew right away were not going to be on board with it, of being able to do that.
Sure.
Because of
people
what
don't
Star
like
Wars
bricks in Star Wars.
I know, but something like this, though, I think Star Wars really is that kind of thing where it's all ages, all families could watch this. And that is the kind of thing where, in my personal opinion, I do think that it's the parent should be given a heads up that this show will do that scene. I don't think it's something that you just turn on with the family and like, oh shit, now I got to have a conversation with my kid about something. That is my personal opinion of it. That does not mean that I do not believe that Star Wars should stray away from being able to talk about that. So before we go into more thoughts, John, what did Tony Gilroy say in the interview when talking about it?
So the quote,
and replace the R, just word something else.
I will navigate it with as little garish silliness as I can.
Yeah.
When asked about the big scene, Andor creator Tony Gilroy explained to The Hollywood Reporter that when telling a story about war, shying away from assault didn't feel truthful. Quote, I get one shot to tell everything I know or can discover or that I've learned about revolution, about battles, with as many incidents and as many colors as I can get in there without having the story tip over. Says Gilroy. I mean, let's be honest, man, the history of civilization, there's a huge arterial component of it that's assault. All of us, who we are all the product of that kind of assault. I mean, armies and powers throughout history have committed it. So to not touch on it in some way, it just was organic and it felt right. Coming about it as a power trip for this guy. I was really trying to make a path for Bix that would ultimately lead to clarity, but a difficult path to get back to clarity.
Yes, and there's a lot of people that is one of those subjects that I know plenty of women that if they're exposed to that, it can be very triggering for them, considering how many women go through this, right? I also, though, very much agree with Tony Gilroy on that. Like, I talked to Michael Tesler, who is our Star Wars aficionado, and he's like, oh, yeah, I actually wasn't, I mean, yeah, of course this would happen in the Empire. They're Nazis.
Yeah.
So it works contextually wise. And we were talking last week about Disney, the future is dark. And this is mature. And I feel like the maturity is there, but I can see how people can feel like there's kind of a skewed voice here, though, when you have something like Andor, which is so mature and really pushing the envelope on the maturity of what you can do. But then like a few weeks ago, we had Skeleton Crew, which is the total antithesis to this. And is this lining up more with the Star Wars vision of what they actually are aiming for? Because I don't think the movies approach this. I personally feel like this, I'm not saying like double down, do more of this in Star Wars. I'm saying the fact that they're willing to do this, and that Tony Gilroy said that Disney did not give any pushback to him actually doing this. He didn't have to fight at all to do it. To me, is a good sign about where Disney is willing to evolve to. And if we can let Star Wars mature like that into its themes more, that can also have a good effect on the other stuff, like how we want stuff like Marvel to go darker, you know? I think this is actually a bold thing, and it's a very real thing, especially if Andor is the real world of Star Wars. I have no issue that they did that, other than like, yeah, you should probably give like a heads up that you will do shit like this in your show.
Yeah, I haven't seen the regular release. I don't know if there was like a disclaimer or warning, but I think it's really important that in a show that is as mature as Andor is, it's not like a curveball. It's a mature show. I don't think people are going to make it, season 2, episode 3 into something that are immature. Hopefully, I think it's important that in war, and it's called Star Wars, which is always the thing I try to stress to people, is war is the most heinous thing human beings do to each other. We need to make sure it's clear that this heinous act is unacceptable. And so I think having a character as obviously evil doing something evil is part of the human condition. And I think these stories are meant to show us the worst of ourselves so we reflect on it. I think you're supposed to get introspective about art. It's supposed to be bearing other people's souls, so your own soul feels a kinship to the horror of it. If you identify with the Nazis,
the Empire,
then perhaps you should seek help. So therefore, I think you're supposed to feel uncomfortable. You should feel horror. And I think that's a positive to feel horror. And I think that a great example you just gave us, Skeleton Crew, was a few weeks ago. If you like kid Star Wars, you got a new one. If you like Star Wars to grow up, we're getting that right now. And Star Wars was invented in the 70s. So there are people that are in their 50s, 60s, 70s. You know, if you watch that as an adult then and you're still alive, you're not young. And if you watched it when the prequels came out, you're not young. You know, we're of a certain maturity that I think that this is a great example of franchises appealing to all ages, not all ages. There's a big difference between all ages and all ages. And I think that Skeleton Crew is for all ages. I think we need stuff to be more mature and to shine a light on the darkness of the human condition. I am really worried. The first step to tyranny is censorship. You know, that's how you win. You omit truths. History is written by the victors. That's why they put Martin Luther King photos in black and white that were in color. Now, not all of them were in color, but by changing some to black and white, it gives us a distance from how recently in history that was. It puts a distance between the fact that was in my case, my grandparents' generation, some people's parents' generation. That's not long ago. And we need to have some stuff put in our faces again because of how much the evils of the world can hide themselves because of the history written by the victors. So I think it's important that art show horror at times to grow us up. And I think Star Wars is a huge war that needs to be addressed. I think it's important.
I appreciate when you said too about the Empire. I appreciate that, hey, we should remind people that the Empire is not cool.
Yeah.
That's the point of it. And we have to kind of drive that back home. Because there was a lot of people who were, of course it's like Twitter keyboard warriors and shit. And then what's that? Was that article Hollywood Reporter, right? That actually that did that. I believe this is like a THR article that were
interviewing Tony Gilroy.
Yeah, where the headline is about this. So of course it was and I think that's cool that they're willing to do that. And I think for the future too, I've imagine if the Acolyte was willing to be R-rated, the show about their Sith, where they were able to not even do the sexual perversions, the ugliness of that, but do the violence. The
violence of being Sith and make it bad. Because Darth Vader's cool as hell. You need to make sure the Empire looks evil.
But do the actual violence, you know? If we can go down that path, sweet.
Yeah.
How awesome would that be? And I don't fault anyone, though, who does disagree with Andor doing that, like turning on a Star Wars show and then this shit happening. I don't fault anyone for feeling like this doesn't belong in Star Wars, because you can't argue with the fact that Star Wars has been around for decades and they've never broached this. So
they've never broached a lot of stuff Andor's doing, though.
Yeah, exactly.
They've never made a slow burn mature, the prequels maybe is the closest because that was about trade war, but we haven't really had anything that felt so authentic about war.
But I think
Rogue One, which is what this is leading up to.
It's always been there, though, all these themes.
Sure.
This is the first time this is like a brand new theme.
Understood.
That they are doing.
Yeah.
And I think that is the part where I feel like a lot of people are like, that just should not exist in here.
I think going la 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 about things that are bad puts us in a worse spot.
Right. And I think the argument that people probably make is that this is supposed to be escapism. But I'm like, but this escapism was intentionally meant to be some type of alternate mirror.
It's got war right there, escapism. I don't know. When I want to escape, I don't go, I'm going to put on Saving Private Ryan.
It's crazy. Sorry.
Just to add, I mean, we've done fun escapist Star Wars almost every time.
Right. Yeah. It's like
so
it's like a 90-10.
It seems reasonable to variate.
Yeah.
I agree. And that's and I love that Tony Gilroy was at the ready with a very nuanced and very reasonable perspective on why. Like his quote is exactly what, I would hope a creator that show. It wasn't like an edgelord choice.
Yeah.
It wasn't handled poorly. It was an important conversation about something that does happen in war and does happen in society, and art is a reflection of society. So if you've got the keys to something that's going to be watched by more people by having it being an IP, but if it's about war, I think it's fair. I do hope there was some sort of trigger warning for people. I don't know, but I do hope there was, because I can't imagine being I can't imagine being a woman. What the world is, to women is terrifying to me, just as a man that is trying to be aware of my surroundings and trying to be aware of the world. I can't imagine what that's like as a baseline. So I feel such great, sympathy to anyone that has had anything on the shades of gray of that occur. If I stumbled across that would feel horrible.
Absolutely.
So I would absolutely hope there is something as a warning. But at the same time, I do think there are things we warn in our openings that are much lesser than that. So I would also hope that is warned. Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes there's like the slightest of violence and there's like a weird thing and you're like, well, what was it? So this deserves it is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And to these other things about like Jodie Comer, Mikey, Madison, other actors, like there's been a good amount of actors declining to be in the new Star Wars movie. I don't really read too much into that. I mean, it's a new Star Wars movie. There's a lot of contractual obligations. I don't really think it's about like, oh no, I won't touch that. I mean, I do think there was a time where actors were like, absolutely, it's Star Wars. I'll do anything to be in it. Daniel Craig, I'll play a stormtrooper. Why not?
Yeah.
I think there was a time where it would be that, and perhaps that enthusiasm is not there as much. I mean, definitely not. And what's cool to me is that we're just getting a new Star Wars movie with a guy who really loves Star Wars, and Ryan Gosling was the last person I heard the rumors forever, and it wasn't really like
until he showed up at Celebration. I was like, there's no way.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, but I feel like it would be fun. Perhaps like I imagine this will be the total opposite of Andor. This is probably going to be a really simple.
He's going to be roguish,
fun,
man. I think he's going to be like Han Solo. I think we're going to have like a fun swashbuckling.
This is going to be really fun. Yeah.
And also, like, I love that Ryan Gosling gets to dive into this Disney. Like, he's such a Disney nerd. Like, I'm excited for the man that is Ryan Gosling. So I don't really like if people aren't as enthusiastic, why force them to do 10 years of something?
Well, I think too the other question about like does the Star Wars fandom know what it wants? I would say it's hard to generalize and make a summation of what everyone wants when it comes to Star Wars. Because
some people want Skeleton Crew, some people want Andor.
Some people want it to only be Skeleton Crew. Some people want it to only be Andor.
Yeah.
Some people like us are like, we want them to do it all. I want an Andor, and I also want a Ryan Gosling, Sean Levy movie. Like I want it all, but I do think that there's still like a lack of focus, because since Disney bought it, it's been a consistent mining of an IP that I do think out of any of the IPs and the stories of an IP being thwarted and a bit ruined, Star Wars is the one that has had, it's still like the fandom's still strong, celebration's still huge, people still love the lore and everything, even coverage, whether it be negative, tends to be pretty big. So yeah, like the Star Wars fans are still there and it's always going to be there, but I do think like, oh, this is the biggest case of any of the projects where, man, they really like botched something, here.
I would agree with Star Wars, but I also think it's a fandom that is so big that it doesn't know what it wants. So this is a great example for me of I hate the expression of nobody asked for this. Yeah, but like you're not making movies, so maybe shut up. Like I don't think we should wait for what we asked for because then you get recycled studio garbage. I think creators that have a vision should get to create. You know, like I don't think we should just wait for what. Not everything should be fan fiction is what I'm trying to say. I don't like when people are mad at bold swings.
Yeah, and this is a bold swing that, while a bit divisive, I don't know how. I'm interested to see if it actually has affected the return for next week. You know, like will people actually walk away from this show now or something? You know, it is bold. What do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comments, please, please. And our last main one today. Okay, we're doing pretty good. Still a long podcast, but all right. Last of Us 2. Spoilers here.
Spoilers. Last bit of news.
All right, gonna give you a countdown here. 3, 2, 1.
You are now in the spoiler zone.
The Allie Johnson Show 2188. The death from Last of Us Season 2. So, people who didn't play the game finally got to experience it. Joel died. Ha 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 ha. Welcome to the world of The Last of Us, people. This is very different than the game world because I'm not going to spoil what future stuff happens.
Please don't.
Well, it's like they take their liberties. It's fairly accurate, and then they do these like other expansions, like the whole attack in Jackson in the episode. That's not in the game.
Oh,
yeah,
that was such a beautiful pairing, I thought.
Yeah, it's not in the game. And when Joel dies, so in the game, you don't know why Abby's doing anything.
Oh, wow.
Like Abby's introduced, you just know briefly that I think she's after Joel. But when she kills him, there's none of this monologue. There's none of that.
You don't get any empathy for her.
You get nothing. You only see her as a villain, and in the game, she's this like buff ass woman, and the way, and it's colder in the game too, much colder. Like she beats him with a golf club on the head, smashes him, and then Ellie gets knocked out. Like when Ellie gets kicked afterwards. First off, who plays who
Isabella Merced?
No, Manny, who plays the Falcon.
Danny Ramirez.
Danny Ramirez. His character in the game spits on Joel's dead body in the game.
Wow.
And then and then Ellie's knocked out. And then it cuts to like a little bit later, and Ellie's all bruised and at home. So it's different in the game. There's a lot more emotion, and it takes his time. She crawls over to his body and all this stuff. Now, when you play a video game, you have bought the video game. You're not going to suddenly stop playing the video game. I'm sure there's some of people who did. But you're like, well, shit, I've already been playing for a few hours. I'm mad. I hated it when I first played it. I hated it in the game. I'm like, what a manipulative ass tactic. I hate this so much. Joel got fridged. You know, that's what it felt like. And I loved it by the end. But then the game challenges you more. The story's going to challenge you more. I'll just tell you that much. And this is different, though, with a show. With a show, I thought they were going to prolong it. I thought they would push it at least like halfway through. Pedro Pascal is a superstar.
I assumed Joel died from the way the season 1 ended. So I thought he was going to die mid-season. Just from story themes and narratives and arcs. Because it was a conflict season finale where you're supposed to be like, he's going too far. I think you're supposed to feel like, at what cost saving Ellie, but also we love Ellie, we love Joel. Like, I thought there was supposed to be a conflict of like, this hyper-violence isn't supposed to feel like vengeance. It's supposed to feel conflicting.
See, that's the thing in the show, in the game, where when you're playing saving Ellie in the game, you're so in Joel's perspective
that it's just
you're
one-to-one.
not conflicted about it, really.
I also think that's very American.
Yeah.
I think killing people in a video game or killing people when it's like a Stallone movie is supposed to feel like, yeah, they bad, I good, haha, die. So when the show made it a little different, that it felt conflicting to me, I was like, Joel doesn't make it through second season.
Well, that's the thing, is the show preps you more for Joel's death. They even prep you more for Abby, like that whole opening scene in the first episode, not in the game. They're really like, we got to like soften the blow here in some way so people still watch.
Because it is a different medium,
And I'm curious to know from you, though, as someone who doesn't know what's supposed to happen next, This and John also and John, Tara, and Roxy have been doing the blind reactions here.
So I'll be the blind take.
Be the blind take. Are you still looking forward to more Last of Us? Honestly. Honestly,
I am gonna be totally honest because it was so funny with my review. So I'm reviewing on my channel, and it's the first time, and you'll be happy, I almost cried. I actually had a rough voice, like I was emotional during my review. Like I didn't have tears, but I was in that space where you're like welled up enough that it causes you to be distorted. And I was like, wow, this really affected me to the point where I sound different in my review. Like it messed me up. But it was so interesting where I was like, I don't like dark content. I like dark humor, and I like darkness when it feels like it is serving a purpose. And like Fincher is about as dark as I like. I love David Fincher, but there are times like I don't watch Seven often. I can acknowledge it as a masterpiece, but I'm not like, it's Saturday, I'm gonna throw on What's in the Box. Like it's just not my happy place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So watching The Last of Us, I was very aware. I didn't enjoy watching it. It wasn't cathartic. It wasn't redemptive. It wasn't, I get the world isn't all, puppy dogs and rainbows, but that's why I like dark comedy. My favorite two comedies people think aren't comedies. I consider In Bruges and
I don't know what the second one is.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh my God, yeah.
I consider those the two funniest movies of all time.
I don't consider that a dark comedy.
Most people don't.
and Bruges I would, but yeah.
But like to me, those are those are comedies to me. Like perfect laugh over other jokes comedies.
Okay.
So when I watch something like that, like those are dark stories. Like a lot of people are hurt and wronged, and you go through it. But there's a levity. Your diaphragm spasms the same way when you're crying as when you're laughing. So when I'm laughing and it's dark, there's something I get out of it that feels good. So when The Last of Us ended, I was like, I don't think I want more of this feeling. And I don't think I'm going to get more joy out of this, because where I think it goes next is it has to, from a narrative perspective, redeem Abby. So I think it's going to be Abby getting more backstory, us feeling for these new pseudo Fireflies, and then Ellie's vengeance on her, because this is a dystopian world where vengeance is the only currency, and we've had the impact of her world be destroyed. She felt alone. The last time she talked to Joel, it wasn't any sort of a real conversation. She's going to feel guilt about that. She's going to feel guilt about not being in the little tribe, and then that tribe's messed up, so she's not going to have an outlet. So she's going to hunt Abby. And I think the way they've set up the character is very, I have no problem with suspension of disbelief, and I have no problem with power scaling, but the show opened with her fighting a 220-pound guy. And so that was supposed to be like, look how much tougher she is. I'm not really buying that from the actress so far. I'm sorry. I haven't felt Bella Ramsey feel 5 years older, or that she could handle taking on a guy that much bigger.
I agree with you.
So like, as much as I like when, female empowerment's important and making sure women learn, self-defense, there is still a plausible deniability of like a certain size human being. And I do feel like they're making Ellie swear, which I assume she does in the game, but in the show, it feels like she's edgy now.
She swears a lot in the first season.
So it felt real then. To me, it feels like it's to make her feel tough. It doesn't feel like,
I get what you're saying.
It doesn't feel naturalized.
I'm there with you.
Adding all up those ingredients, I think by where we are in the story, it's going to be Ellie on a revenge tour, being edgy, being tough, being strong, hunting Abby. So then as a narrative, you'd have to make Abby redemptive. So it's going to be us feeling conflicted about whether or not Ellie is in the right to hunt Abby, if Abby was in the right to kill Joel, and nothing of that sounds like a fun time. And not everything has to be fun, but I also like spending my hour in the world of darkness, not adding to it.
Do you feel like beyond that dark feeling, are you interested enough in the characters to continue without Pedro Pascal? That's what I'm trying to get at too.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's a very different question.
I love the answer you gave, honestly. That's also very telling that I'm sure a lot of other people are feeling.
I think Pedro Pascal is captivating enough to carry a show, as we've seen. I think that Kaitlyn Dever is also captivating enough to carry a show, but they haven't let this character be that yet, and it sounds like she was even less in the game, so they have done more. I feel like 3 is really make or break for me. Like episode 3 is going to be whether or not I feel that not Kaitlyn Dever, but Abby is enough to carry a show. Because right now, I'm not as invested in this adolescent rage Ellie. And I think Bella Ramsey is an incredible actress. I think first season, Bella Ramsey, I was like, man, she's like the next big thing. I don't know what kind of character she wants to play, but I think she's absolutely got it. It's ironic. The one thing I don't think she plays well is the way this character feels like it has to go narratively.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's her fault, but that makes me worried about the rest.
It's conflicting for me. I think there are so many times Bella Ramsey soars. So many times. Even in Joel's death scene. Incredible.
Absolutely.
And then it's these other aspects where I'm like, I'm not really buying this side. All the stuff you were saying. Yeah, I agree with you.
She swears like a white rapper.
I think she kills it in the first season. I think she's great in the first season for a younger Ellie. I don't believe the age jump.
Sure.
And yeah, there's and also like you know, and I've said this. I prefer Pedro by like an inch over the Joel in the game. That is not a popular opinion, I'll say. Because in the game, part of the veil that you're breaking is you're playing as like, you know, Texan Caucasian man, good looking dude, Joel, yeah, who has a death. And he's hardened, you know, he's a hardened guy where I think Pedro plays him more broken, which I think is more real.
It's more relatable.
For an adaptation to do your live action, for following a protagonist, it makes more sense. In a game, yeah, you're playing as Joel in the first
Clint Eastwood's
game.
easier in a video game.
Yeah, and so I think I connect more with the Pedro version because I'm like, yeah, I'd be more that the broken one, not the guy who somehow still seems confident and badass, you know, because I don't consider Pedro badass in the show at all. I don't, and I like that. And Abby, Last of Us 2 is not Abby, Ellie. Last of Us 2 is my favorite video game of all time.
Cool.
Ellie in Last of Us 2 is my favorite character of all video games. And Pedro, I really feel like, is doing his own thing. Where I feel like Bella Ramsey is doing more of trying to capture the video game.
That's kind of what I'm speaking, having not played the game. That's kind of what I'm speaking to with the language. It doesn't feel like her take on the character. It feels like it's been told to do.
Yeah, and there's like a lid, though. If you play the game of the law of the lid, you'll never be able to catch up. You know, if a video game is at a 10, the highest Bella could ever really achieve is a 9 if she's aiming to capture the game. Granted, the show gives a lot of scenes that are not in the game at all for her to explore, or for them, I forget what their pronoun is, but to explore all these different areas. And so, yeah, I think there's aspects that I think Bella knocks it out of the park, but it's these other parts where I do go, they've got a lot to prove right now that, you know, you got rid of Pedro and you've really got to carry this whole show now on your shoulders. And granted, there's an ensemble of people. Like, I think they gave all that Jackson stuff brilliantly because Tommy in the game doesn't get Gabriel Luna has already had way more screen time than Tommy.
And now we care about Gabriel Luna.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's got way more screen time than Tommy does in the game. And that's important because they're elevating an ensemble. I liken it sort of to The Office of when they got rid of Steve Carell. Did you see The Office?
Yeah.
So when they got rid of Steve Carell.
Will Ferrell.
They
I don't know what accent I just gave. Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell. They elevated the rest of the ensemble because they were losing their lead.
Right.
And I think that's what the approach they're sort of doing is like, let's make it more of an ensemble, not even solely like an Abby and Ellie show, but an ensemble piece. But I'm like, this could be a downfall because in a game you're gonna play. You're like, you're gonna follow through. You're gonna follow through. I hated it when it happened, but I followed through and I loved it by the end.
And it's got me for one more, but I don't know.
But I think there's a lot of people, and I can't speak on the next one. But let's hope. Hope.
And I'm curious. Also, it's a curiosity of whether I'm predicting it right that might keep me. But also, a lot of people like dark content that I don't. So there's probably more people that are going to give it more. Like, I didn't even like watching Game of Thrones. Like, I watched some of Game of Thrones, but overall, like, I didn't enjoy a show that felt like it wanted to upset you. Like, a lot of times they were like, you know, you love this guy.
Yeah.
What am I doing? I got stuff to do. Like, I don't need that. So, like, to me, that's part of it. So there are people that like that kind of content and that kind of art. I'm not one of them. So maybe it is less jarring for those people.
We'll see. It's my favorite game of all time. At the same time, like I feel bad saying it's because we're on a public forum, but yeah, I think Bella Ramsey's got a lot to, and I'm gonna give the chance. That's the thing. As a person who loves this game, and I see the internet discourse around them, people are already written them off and make like I hate the whole making fun of the physical appearance because I don't feel like you need to look a certain way. It's more about how you carry yourself than it is how you physically look from a screenshot, you know?
Sure.
So we'll see. We'll see. How are you guys feeling about it though? You cool? You cool? Anyway, it was a long one, Coy.
I'm not surprised. You were like, I'm going to clock it. I'm going to make sure I got a stopwatch. I'm like, that means it's going to run long.
I mean, when we were doing multiple stories.
We had a lot today.
Yeah. But hey, that's it. That's it on the agenda for today. There's one question that was really highlighted, so I want to honor it, and we'll end it off here. John, can you check these cards to make sure we're still recording on here, please?
And we've also got Patreon questions at the end.
Yeah, we already we include those at the end.
Okay.
But this one was one that I liked, and I want to hear some Coy Rex too. Is Yop Draza says, since Greg's been reading a lot of comics, I would love if you guys talked about comic books. What have you been reading? Your thought on recent comic book news and what books you're looking forward to. I'll tell you, I could pull it up right the F word right now, people, because I have the Marvel Unlimited app here. So I am reading, oh God, I forget which artist this is. I'm reading the Fantastic Four starting at, name some artists, Coy, who are like the definitive ones.
Some artists?
I mean, yeah.
From what company? What? Sorry, what?
Fantastic Four, issue number 53.
From the original?
Yeah.
I think that's still Jack Kirby.
No, not the original. 2012. I'm doing a terrible job answering this question. 2002.
2002 Fantastic Four number 53. Let me look. I'll look at the cover and I'll know what artist did the inside. Oh, Mike Ringo. I love Mike Ringo.
That one. I'm also reading Daredevil issue number 598, the Mayor Fisk arc. I've been also hopping to Spider-Man Brand New Day as well, continuing that. I'll read more Punisher closer to it. I'm waiting through the Mayor Fisk one. And then for DC, I did All-Star Superman, which I really loved. Reading Superman Birthright right now.
Nice, good.
Mark
good
Waid.
Pick.
Yeah, I was like, I'm trying to find ones that might like prime me a little bit more.
If you go in the DC Universe Infinite app on Superman Day, they gave me my own poll category. So I gave my top 10 and Birthright's on there.
Oh, really?
It's my face holding up comics.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I was really proud.
Yeah. I've really been enjoying reading all these comics and hopping between and seeing like the way things parallel what is going on in the shows and the movies and such. And Birthright especially feels very cinematic.
Dude, Birthright's so good.
I was surprised by that because it feels like cut to. This is the frames and stuff, and the way the transitions are. It's a very cinematic portrayal. And I would say the same thing for the Daredevil run. The thing is, I suck at remembering like artist names and writers' names and stuff. So the app really helps me out to keep track of where I'm at. And Fantastic Four is becoming a much more enjoyable read. Right now, it's on this part where like the Inhumans are in there, and Dr. Doom showing up is like, I will give liberty to the Inhumans. That's a section. So I do want to get to a point where I'm reading like the Dr. Doom origins and everything. But yeah,
One World Under Doom is really awesome right now, and it's Doom. Basically, he takes over the planet, and he goes like, you get free education, you get free like blah blah, like everyone is equal rights. But I'm your leader and you have to follow me. And all the heroes are like, but you're a bad guy. Free education is not worth your tyranny. And then he's like, here's all this free stuff. And everybody's like, I think I'm on Doom's side. And they're like, but he's a villain. And it's really cool to see the conflict of like, at what cost freedom?
I think reading comics gets confusing because I was like trying to find the Fantastic Four ones, and they're like, oh, in 2002 era, I started at issue number 53, but I'm like, what about issues number 1 through 50? Won't I be lost or confused? And it's difficult to wrap my brain around how like they do soft reboots.
They do, they renumber things, and they also do legacy numbers. So sometimes the original number will come back. So like when you get to like 600, it might have just been 59, and then you're like 600.
It's confusing. It does get a little difficult to keep up with.
70 years of running, like it's hard to.
Damn, it is really immersive. You put on like the right music or something like that, and you read along,
or listen to DC High Volume Batman and read along while you listen to voice actors do it incredibly.
I want to do that.
I'm really curious what you think. Like genuinely, I'd love to know what you think of like it's Year One, which is one of the best Batman stories ever.
It's one of my all-time favorite comics.
Dude, the sound design this team did is so special. It sounds like when you're like War of the Worlds 1920s, but 2020s, and it's Batman. It's
cool.
top-notch sound design, incredible voice actors. Every different character has their own score, so it's like this giant composition of this orchestra while voice actors and sound design. It's so special.
Yeah, I mentioned this to Aaron when we filmed. They would tell you what I thought they should do for Batman Year One for if they adapted it into live action.
What?
Is if they cut out all the POV from Bruce Wayne and Batman, and if they only made it from like Gordon's perspective, so you could still have Bruce Wayne appear.
Yeah,
you can still have Batman appear, but you never
make a Gordon story.
But you only keep it on Gordon's POV, so that way it's like fun for the audience. That like we know it's Batman and Bruce Wayne are the same, but the camera never shows you that.
That's fun. That's very noir.
Yeah, I think that would be like a really cool way to do the adaptation.
The way we adapted it on High Volume was the voice actor for Batman, Jason Spizak, is a genius, and he actually played around with different voices in real time. So you'll hear Batman have different connotations and intonations for like when he's talking to Gordon versus when he's interrogating people versus. But also it's cool because when he's developing the Batman voice, you hear him developing it in his own head because how would Batman know what Batman sounds like?
Yeah.
So how much intimidation versus how much? So every Batman that's being developed, it finds the voice literally, and you hear inside his head, which is really cool.
Cool. What do you got? What do you want to recommend?
All right, so I've been reading a ton. Every single week, I recommend comics on my page, by the way. So if you guys want weekly recs, I do my top 9 every week over on my page. But I've been reading the new Absolute stuff over at DC. Loved Absolute Martian Manhunter. I think it's a really cool, approachable way for people to discover a very dense, weird character. It's an issue 1, all new continuity. You don't have to read any of those other numbers. It's literally a new world. So issue 1 has nothing behind it. It's a new one.
What's it called?
Absolute Martian Manhunter.
Okay.
So all the Absolute stuff, Absolute Batman, Superman.
Yeah, I get those. They're recommended a lot.
All of them are brand new continuity. So it's not like a soft reboot. It's a new continuity altogether. It doesn't even relate to the old stuff. So for example, Absolute Batman, instead of being a billionaire, what if Absolute Batman was a blue collar worker? He doesn't have the money.
Darren Aronofsky's version.
Yeah. And so Alfred's not his butler. He meets an MI6 agent Alfred and what that's like, that conflict. It's really interesting, dude.
Cool.
And then Superman's a refugee, like he's defending refugees that are being taken over by the like peacemaker type goons. It's dope. So Martian Manhunter came out a couple weeks ago. Loved issue 1. Also really digging Hush 2 is back with Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee. They're the same creators are back on for a new Hush. Department of Truth is one of my favorite comics of all time, and it just came back in a big way. Imagine a world where if enough people believed in something, it became real. So the 3 of us are sitting in a room and we're talking to the audience, and 30,000 people watch this video in like 3 days, and we're like, yeah, Sasquatch. Like, obviously Sasquatch is real. Suddenly Sasquatches would start appearing. They'd manifest. They'd walk by. If enough people believe. So the Department of Truth is a government organization that is tasked with keeping the truth what they want it to be. So it's how do we navigate
literally controlling the narrative?
It's fascinating. And then there's like a Russian propaganda arm and the conflict of belief. It's so dope. And all the art is very like hallucinogenic and terrifying. It's a comic that's so good, it's given me panic attacks. Like I've been reading it and been like, what's reality? And like gotten in my own head. It's dope.
Cool.
And then another couple quick ones. I personally am really enjoying Ultimate Spider-Man more than I have enjoyed Spider-Man in years. I think it's the best Spider-Man in probably 20 years. I'd recommend you check it out with issue 1. The Deviant just finished. And it was a really hard to read book. It's a homosexual man writing from the perspective of being curious about a man who was seemingly wrongly acquitted of murder, who was homosexual in the 70s. So it's whether or not that man was put in prison because he actually murdered these young boys or because he had pictures of young boys and therefore they were able to lump it. So was it bigotry? Was he actually a monster? And why is this man who's a writer so interested in it? Because now there's a copycat killer, and is the person you're reading from the perspective of murdering people. So you're reading this book and you're like, am I going to end and realize that I've been cheering on a murderer that's like torturing young boys? It makes you really look at your own like predispositions, notions, and beliefs, and then it actually stuck the landing where the ending felt justified and also awesome. Like, it's one of the hardest comics I've ever gotten through, and it's only 9 issues. But it makes you go like, ugh, I feel like I'm living in this thing, but is it me judging? Am I? It's insane.
Gross.
It's hard.
Okay.
So yeah, some fun comics, but that also shows the range. That's kind of like, I wanted to tie it to Andor. Comics aren't just for kids. They're not all ages. They are all ages. And I think it's important to read your Spider-Man and to read your Batman. But also, if you like things that are a bit more challenging and a bit more like, what is the world? Deviant goes there. Department of Truth goes there. Saga goes there. And I think we should have a full spectrum of the human condition once we're mature enough to handle it.
Amen to that. Well, because this was not a comic book led podcast, this will be one of our lower performing ones, but definitely one of our longer ones. You know how it is.
30,000 was a bit ambitious.
We'll see. I mean, the lowest we got was like 14K, I think.
They've all grown.
And that was because of the, it wasn't a comic book.
Yeah, we'll see how this one does.
I mean, Thunderbolts will be in there, but I'd be surprised. I'd be happy. I'd be happy if this got 20,000. Honestly,
all right.
I'd be happy with 10,000. Honestly,
I'm always proud of this show.
I'm happy. I think like no matter what, we enjoy doing this, and we love for the people who do keep returning. So thank you guys as we are growing, developing, and appreciate you, Coy. Thanks, John, for manning all this shit down. Thank you, Prepper, for the turnarounds on this. I know we've given you a lot to edit here. All right, guys, we're clocking out now. Enjoy these questions that we answer from patrons as we use to warm up. Take care. Welcome to the end of the video, which is our warm-up, as Coy and I get our energy and rapport in play.
And we switch sides.
We switch sides today, which we are saying at the end instead of the beginning of the video now. All right, so I pulled up a couple Patreon questions, did the usual of what people, and I chose a few. I got 3 solid, maybe 4, but I want to make sure we are on a good time on this one.
Okay.
So Stephanie Horton asked a really good question I thought was great. She says, "Hey guys, saw y'all's reaction to Thunderbolts drop in and loved it. We did, not our reaction to the movie, but we did a social media thing with the limo driver and stuff. Really fun. What are some other ways you think marketing for the MCU could be done for the general public that hypes a movie without giving away the third act or any storyline at all? And how would that impact y'all's work?" Oh, I didn't even read that last part. How would that impact y'all's work? Can I go first with what I think? Something very simple that I think would come to mind is I immediately, when I read that question this morning, flashed to when I saw I Am Legend in IMAX with John. I saw that in IMAX, and there was no announcement about a Dark Knight preview. Do you know what that preview was?
Was it the Heath opening?
It was a whole Heath Ledger opening scene. And it was a couple minutes in where I was like, are we watching a Dark Knight trailer? And then it kept going. It's like, we're watching a whole scene. And it was the first time seeing the movie with the IMAX. It was daunting, And now we're so used to that. I remembered when that first shot of the city, you could hear murmurs of people responding and going like, whoa, this is scary. It's that thing in that Scorsese movie Hugo when they show the train and moving into the screen and people were like freaking out like how it was back then. And that's how people felt with that. And I love that it was a surprise. And so when I saw this, I thought, what tends to hook me personally, like my point of view. I don't know what will work for the general. It happened with Dark Knight. I think that really helped the box office. I started watching Suits because on Netflix, when they do the preview, it was a scene. And it was a scene from Suits where the 2 main characters first meet. And I saw the first minute of it and I was like, oh, that's intriguing. I didn't know what the show was I didn't know it was a phenomenon in the show. Yeah. But that scene hooked me. And I think releasing a scene into theaters is the way to do it. Instead, like one scene, a few minutes, something that gives you more of wanting to see it more than a trailer. Because trailers are manipulative. We're kind of used to the formula, the beats, the editing, the structure. A scene actually gives you a good idea of what it's about. And granted, Nolan creates these prologues that are made for marketing. Yeah. But so that's like one thing. But I think a good few minutes of an actual scene will do way more. And not even telling the audience that like this is going to be there would probably be more effective for the theater part of it. That's my personal thought.
I got 3.
Oh, and I'm sure yours are way more creative.
No. The first one's just selfish. I've really got 2, but one's a joke. It's not a joke, though. Marvel, let me take your actors comic book shopping. I think making the audience understand the passion behind the actor, and I'm being dead serious about that aspect. I think showing the actor's passion is a huge element we're missing from marketing. I think in marketing, we've got sound bites and we've got structure and we've got like little fun anecdotal stories, but rarely does it feel like it ties back into Marvel itself. And what you can do with things like comic book shopping or things that are in actual rhythm with the movie is it feels like marketing the movie, not marketing like why are we showing, like red carpets feel like you're showing off shirts. Like a lot of times there's a Getty image, I'm like, I'm more worried about what outfit I'm wearing and it's not like promoting the thing. The same thing with marketing. I would love if the actors actually get to, in addition to doing like your hot ones and doing your like, 10 things I can't live without and all the fun, I think marketing can be fun like those, but also do one that feels specific. So something like a comic book shopping. And then 2, I really think that what we have with trailers reveals too much of the third act. I think we should do more behind the scenes. I love when you've got vignettes that are like actors sitting in their chairs talking on set. I love when it's people talking about working with the director, people talking about the experience making the movie, because you can get really in depth, but it doesn't ruin the actual movie. It just builds hype. So I think more behind the scenes stuff like we used to get on Blu-ray commentaries. I think DVD and Blu-ray commentaries are a lost art in general, but audio commentaries, behind the scenes, deleted scenes, all that stuff could be used in marketing in pre-production versus post-production in different ways. And then third, I would incorporate deleted scenes that are shot for the purpose of trailers like they did with Endgame. I think we should shoot more stuff that is tonally appropriate, that is fun, that many people can be misled, so that a trailer can be like, oh, what a cool scene, but I'd love if it misled me instead of led me. So I would make more fake marketing stuff, which is why that lawsuit about like, oh, that wasn't in the movie, I think is bull. I think marketing should be allowed to be whatever it wants to be. If it's not like a lot, like if someone's not in the movie, don't show them. But like if it's a scene that gets the zhuzh, the energy of the movie, but then I'm not trying to piece together how that's in the third act, I would make more marketing material solely for the purpose of marketing. So interactive media that ties into the movie, behind the scenes footage that is more immersive but not revealing, and then scenes shot for the purpose of marketing.
We, at this point in time in the video, we would have talked about The Last of Us. And for The Last of Us 2 video game, I was reminded of this from Neil Druckmann on the podcast, is they did the trailer for Last of Us 2. It was a scene, okay, at the end of Last of Us episode 2.
Yes.
The song that plays is the song that was in the trailer for the first trailer of the game.
That's special.
And that scene is not in the game.
Oh, that's special.
It's not in the game at all. It's with Joel and Ellie, but it tells you like a tone, an idea what it might happen, but it doesn't take place.
Is Ashley one of the voices of the game?
Yeah, Ashley's Ellie. Ashley's Ellie.
Oh,
yeah. Thumbnail. Someone remember this?
Dude, Ashley's delightful. I had no idea.
I don't want to skim for an hour.
Yeah, there it is. I've only met her a few times through the Critical Role. She's like in the Critical Role community, and she's a delight. She's such a, and she sang the song.
Yeah, and she's in What Women Want, and as Mel's daughter,
magnum opus. What Women Want.
Totally looks like Mel.
That's lovely. I love hearing people's success that are good people.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Those are my three.
I agree with that a lot. That would be really fun. It's hard because social media marketing, like things like Novocaine. I think Novocaine was marketed brilliantly, but didn't do as well as it ought to have done.
I think the audience is the problem.
What I think with the fan screenings are tough because it's really easy to walk out and go, of course people liked it. It's a fan screening. It's fan. They're showing up who are already predisposed to want to like it, so they're going to probably like it. I would think it would be cooler if they did surprise, like where audiences are going. Those like went on the certain theaters.
AMC surprise screening, like where they just play a movie.
Where they play a movie, they pack it, and they don't have to have a cast member or anything come out. Someone comes out, but like, we're going to show you Thunderbolts today. Congratulations, you're the first audience. Like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then, bam, like, if you're not caught up with the MCU, good luck. But yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a good amount of people who are moviegoers who are there for these, especially in the Los Angeles area.
Yeah.
I think that would be
major
a better
metropolitan surprise screenings is a great idea.
Then you get like the out of the theater reactions, like did not know I was going to be watching Thunderbolts today. Went in blind or went in not knowing, have any anticipation. I think getting that genuine, you delete all the ones that are negative, and you only go with the
control the
narrative,
narrative,
control the marketing.
It's not live. Control the marketing.
It's not a lie. You just left out some pieces of information.
Omission.
Time-bound mission, baby. That's how you do business.
And then if it tanks Rotten Tomatoes wise, you release those and play irony card, and then do what you want with the marketing there.
Yeah, yeah.
My favorite ironic marketing ever is, that movie Legend with Tom Hardy, where he plays twins? They had all the 4-star reviews, and like the people that made it, so the poster was all 4-star reviews, but they snuck in a 2-star review between them, and it was literally a 2-star review, but it looks like it's another 4-star review between both Tom Hardys.
Oh, really?
So they literally advertised a 2-star review.
I think another thing they can do is go to states that are not as popular to go to, because everything is primarily only like Los Angeles or New York City. But go to Colorado, go to Utah, go to the cinema spots there. And like Boulder, Colorado is a pretty popular film spot.
Atlanta,
for
where
Colorado.
they film so much of this.
Atlanta, yeah, go to other spots that aren't, so that way you are, if you want to do some of these like pop-up things, these special things that are, because you're tending to like one little thing in LA.
And you get a different tone of love.
Exactly.
Like I would argue, like, all of the world sees Marvel movies. We need to make sure all of the world is represented in their appreciation.
That's what I would do. How would that impact our work? I don't know. It would make it more fun. But thanks for that question.
Great question.
Let's see here. Aiden Karst Dougherty says, how do you balance enjoying certain TV shows or movies for yourself and picking it for content? For example, do you ever look at a current TV show that's gaining popularity or getting massively recommended and think, I want to watch this on camera? Or do you often think, I wish I could watch this by myself or with my loved ones? Does that often factor into who makes it into a group of reactors and who does not? I mean, I feel like I ought to take the lead on this one. Yeah, it's tough. You know, everything is constantly ebbing and flowing, and decision making is changing on how to approach things. And a lot of times it is like, especially if it's a big show. I'm like at odds with it right now with Dexter. I want John and someone to cover Dexter. I love all of Dexter. I've seen the whole thing, and I'm pretty sure the first season would do really well. But then it might start dipping after a while. But then we're locked in for like a few seasons that are not going to do well. Then if we stop, then it's going to be another Chucky situation. I get a lot of shit for that. and then I'm like, all you care about is money. And I'm like, well, now we're all that, all that work we did is not making any. We're not even breaking even now. Now we're losing money. And I want to do it for the experience, though. Like experience first, monetary stuff second, is as how I'm trying to approach as much of this as possible, because truth be told, I'm fucking miserable when it's only about money. If that is the first factor, not the second or third factor or whatever, when it is the first, I deteriorate. I feel like I erode from that. So that's one spot. But then, sometimes you get confused. Like the studio seemed to me like it was going to be this phenomenon of a show, and apparently it's a huge show. But people who cover it on YouTube, it doesn't do well. And that's like my favorite show right now.
My Andor numbers are so much smaller than my Acolyte, which I did not expect.
Andor is another example of that. You never really know, and sometimes it is like this show's like Wednesday was taken off, and John and I were like the last people to do it. Did really well for us though. So sometimes it is like, this is going really well. This is really popular. Let's cover it. Other times we want to just cover it. We took a chance on Havoc this week, which is a movie.
Yeah, I'm curious.
But that's like one thing. It's not like, hey, let's do this whole season to television.
We're not committing to a lifestyle of watching it every week.
So when it comes to the TV shows, what I'll say on a personal side is I think it's important that everyone here does have a show or shows that they do for themselves, because I think it's really, one can lose sight of the true experience of why we love a show or why we love watching TV shows if we're not doing it in our personal life as well. And so having the studio for me, having Dexter for me, having Better Call Saul when other people were coming at Westworld. So I've been back and forth on like, do I start Severance on the channel or do I start Severance on my own? That's another example of a show. That's my personal feeling, is factoring that out. But the thing is with shows, I feel like anyone's willing to react to it here. It's not as much of a discussion of like who's going to skip the theater. It's a show, so we're all going to watch it at home. But I think it's important to have that, even though I know it would behoove us to do every show on camera. You have to remember what it's like to do in private, because when the camera's rolling, there's so much about that is trying to let people in a sort of purview on how it is when the camera's not rolling.
So if you never do it regularly, you'll forget how that muscle works.
Yeah, you'll forget the actual emotion and feeling. Then it becomes about only doing it for the camera, and you lose sight of that when it has to be a hybrid, a both.
Yeah.
So that's me. But I know that's all a decision on Greg. Let me ask something for Coy. Coy, Riley Peterson wants to know, on the days when you're feeling completely burnt out and just don't want to do anything anymore, what do you do or tell yourself to get back up and do the next thing or go to the gym?
That I'm dying, and I'll appreciate that I did it because it might fend off death by a few hours. Like I just, the constant awareness of mortality keeps me motivated, that if I'm on my deathbed, I won't remember sitting on the couch and staring into the middle distance. I might remember something I'm proud of, and I'm not going to get closer to something I'm proud of without taking the small steps to get to that thing I'm proud of. I'm burnt out at all times. I'm pretty exhausted most of the time. I'm working on adding things in. I'm working on, actually, Greg and I literally just had this conversation. I'm working on being additive. For a long time, I was going, okay, I've got too much on my schedule. I need to take this away. I need to take this away. What can I quit? What can I leave? What can I not do? And it made me focus on feeling stressed. It made me focus on burnout. It made me focus because by the nature of trying to take things away, in my case, it was going, you have too much. You have too much. What can I rid yourself of? You're overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed. And that became the voice in my head. And so instead of focusing on the burnout, focusing on the overwhelm, I'm trying to go, okay, let's ironically and oxymoronically add things to your crazy schedule, but make sure you're adding things that refuel you. And I'm trying to put those into a calendar, and I'm trying to make that calendar visual. So I'm trying to make the things that are fueling me in green. When I started this 2 weeks ago, I had one green block in 7 days, and I went, not healthy. And I was trying to, and then I caught myself trying to color change things. And I was like, well, that's kind of for me and kind of for work. And I was like, that's literally defeating the purpose if I'm trying to break my own systems. Then I realized I needed to, if I'm that broken that I'm doing 95% work, I really need to add more that is fueling me. So when I'm feeling down or burnt out, I'm trying to find something that I can squeak in that is purely for me and not for work. And then working out, I fell off so hard with my traveling and with last year when I got sicker than I realized. And I had a blood-brain barrier scare where they had to give me medicine that was preventing me from getting meningitis and having basically brain bleeds and potential death. But the medicine they gave me was so strong that I had to sign a mental health waiver that was basically you will likely have ideations and homicidal ideations. It was so aggressive. They were like, this isn't a maybe, is gonna mess you up. Because it was basically napalming my entire stomach, which we're learning more and more controls our emotions. So the antibiotic and they give it to people.
Gut health side.
They give it to people exposed to anthrax. It was a serious medicine. Okay. Because it was basically we need to save your life. This in your skull infection has gotten so bad, you could die. It's worth the risk of these horrible side effects. And between the actual eardrum rupturing and all the sickness I got, but then also the mental health that messed me up, I just fell out of love with the gym for the first time ever. And it's so much harder to get back into the rhythm than to stay in the rhythm. I've never fallen off as hard as I am now. So what I'm currently trying to do is look at all the barriers between what I actually love, things like the gym, and adding in positive to build my willpower back up. So I feel like I'm not only depleted by burnout, but my willpower is also depleted. So I'm not getting mad at myself for not going to the gym as much because I know that's not going to help me. What I'm trying to do is rebuild my willpower through positive things to get to the point where the gym is fun again. And then once the gym is fun again, add one more workout to the week and then another workout and then get back into the system. So I'm rebuilding from scratch, and I'm actually going to try to get rid of barriers by putting a gym in my backyard because I have a backyard for the first time. So then I won't have the excuse of I'm not driving to the gym. Oh, I don't want to look for parking. It's in my backyard. So I'm trying to remove barriers of obstacles of the positive and also rebuild my positivity in general and let myself have a break because of all the shit I went through last year.
Smart.
I'm trying to be scientific about it.
Yeah. The way your brain operates, it's I think your solution would work specifically for you.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend everyone. I accept overwhelm more than most, and I accept being burnt out more than most. It's not healthy. You and I both end up in the hospital and end up in bad physical health because we let our mental health run rampant. I would not recommend our systems, but if you were like us, might work.
Huh. Well, to me, I have my short answer is if there's one thing I'm proud of myself in is I'm a person who handles his responsibilities despite how I'm feeling and despite whatever state I'm in, and to me, it's working out is a priority. It is a responsibility of mine that even if I don't feel like doing it, I'm aware that I will feel better if I do it. I'm a person who wakes up every day. My natural state is zombie depressed. That's my natural state when I wake up, and it's how it's been since before the channel, and it hasn't really changed. And every day gets a little bit, sometimes easier, some days harder. But I believe in the power of being able to prime yourself to get ready for the day. So I do like to do I haven't meditated in 3 days, weirdly, but I've found other ways because it's what is the goal of meditation? To be able to achieve a little bit more observation and mindfulness, right? And so I have other methods that I do. So when it comes to this stuff about burnout, the most important thing, John and I were having a long conversation about the idea of affirmation versus incantation, and I believe very much in affirmation that you should affirm the truth. So not bullshit affirmations like lying to yourself and trying to convince yourself, I am this, I am this. It's be honest with yourself about it. That's why I ask people how they're feeling, because if you're honest with yourself, the phrase is the truth will set you free. And so I try to be honest. And that's the part that scares me about cancel culture is because I'm being very honest lately about how I feel. in life generally. And I don't want to be like held like, yeah, I said that because I'm saying that so I can be moving forward and changing and progressing. I'm not saying that so you can condemn me and crucify me, you know? Or hold this against me like, see, you said this. I'm like, yeah, I said that because that is me admitting the truth so I can grow. And that's the only thing we really can do sometimes. And I think is in the world, the thing I'm getting more in tune with is I often get so caught up in my own personal hardships and struggles, and I make it all about me. And I forget that most people are struggling with something. And I'm not aware a lot of the time or think it. Like I was telling John the other day, I texted Andrew and Aaron, like, please don't be late to this thing. Please don't be late. They were late. I was pissed. And of course, Andrew shows up and he had some type of real physiological thing going on. I'm like, God damn it. I should have been like, hey, is everything okay first? Because I got caught up in like, you're delaying me for my already 12-hour workday. So I think the only thing you can really do sometimes, and it's the hardest thing for people to do, is be honest with yourself. And that's probably, you can find, there's different paths from that point on. It's a
I have one little tiny thing left. I'm working on adding things that are I'm the only variable. It kind of ties into what you're saying. But
Definitely.
I'm trying not to have my happiness be like situational or hinged on anyone else. I don't have many hobbies or things I haven't monetized. So I'm trying to find things that are completely me that I can find joy in. And that's been helping.
Yeah. I'm watching.
Do you know what I mean? Like without any other, like I'm not waiting on my fiance for a show. I got to find a show that I can watch without her. I'm trying to like find food that I like cooking and then eating, not like, oh, I'm making it for three. Like finding things that are so low that I don't have any waiting or looking for.
That's the thing is like, as I've been working out and when I was first on this journey this year, now that I've been getting really good results, people are way more encouraging about what I've been doing. It's a weird thing at the
plateau
beginning.
is long, dude.
But when you're first starting, it's like, just have a cookie. You know? Like, do this. Who cares? Then once you start getting results, people are like, what are you doing?
Wow.
How are you doing it? And I'm noticing that like more people like want to work out with me, go on this thing with me. And I'm finding that it's hard for me to say no to people at times. And I don't want to lie to people. Sometimes I am because I'm like I kind of just want to be alone.
This is for me.
I'm like I need the alone time, and I feel like I tap into my imagination better too when I want to create stuff, and I come up with solutions on my own versus being caught up in a conversation.
Sure.
You know. So yeah, that's true.
Valuing alone time.
Yeah. But I would like to go on, like Andrew wants to go on a hike. We talked about going on a hike, and I would like to do that, though. I think those are fun ways to bond. I like stretching with people.
Yeah,
I think
and well, endorphins are such a good
Yeah.
bonding agent for your own brain, much less with others.
Stretching is really good, too. I did a whole hour-long stretch yesterday, and that really helped me out because there's so much tension and pain and repression that you hold in your body, and beyond working out, like this, it helps release a lot. So
I am tense, repression embodied.
I know you were fucking, yeah. And then you're like, but this is getting me closer to looking like Tom Hardy.
That man is tense and repressed
and very tired. Yeah.
and very tired. His whole last 3-year career is tired.
Tired characters. Anyway, thanks for the questions, guys. Well, that's the end of the video. Appreciate you.